Alright guys, next big project for the Jeep. Back after the Windrock trip, got the Curry suspension on next up. Probably one of the biggest modifications we're going to do to this Jeep. Right here we've got a 241 OR out of a 2003 Rubicon. Now these have a 4:1 ratio versus our current 231 case that has a 2.72 to 1 ratio. A lot better crawling with this case. We got this used, like I said, out of an old Rubicon. These are getting hard to find, I guess. You can still get them. Prices are going up as we speak, and they're just getting difficult to find in general. So we snatched one up. Gonna get it in the Jeep. Just go over a few things real quick before we get started. First off, like I said, this is a 4:1. As you can see right here on the little stamp plate, 241J. All this just serial number 03J1, and then right there is your 4:1 ratio. So new process 241 case. As you can see, it's got a harmonic balancer and a flange style drive shaft mounting on the back. We are going to retain that. And actually on the front of these is a 1330 joint, so we're going to pull this off. Got a 1310 yoke from Tom Woods on the way. Swap that one out. Right here is your gear selector. It's in 2 high right now. To go to 4 high would be 1 step back, neutral, and then 4 low is all the way back. So speaking of that, we've got a new cable shift system from Novak. Yes, we already put one of these on. The Rubicon version is actually different, so gonna have to redo that as well. That's gonna be a major step. Fishing that other one in there was not easy, but it's just something that has to be done, so won't be too bad. Here's your speedo sensor, which is completely different for the Rubicons. This one's an electronic sensor. So theoretically mine is supposed to plug right in. My current case has never been reset to where my speedo is actually right, so may just be able to plug that in and have no difference. But with it being electronic, we can now flash it with some sort of module and hopefully get the speedo right, versus changing out a gear inside the tail housing here. And then right here is your 4-wheel drive dummy light, is what I call it. It's what comes on the dash cluster when you go into 4-wheel drive. Currently it shows just an orange text that pops up and says 4-wheel drive. That's what this is. We got from Rock Auto here, with the help of the TJ Forum, got a new plug that replaces that, and we also got a pigtail here to hopefully get this wired in to where that still works. As much as you don't need that dummy light, it's going to be pretty easy to tell when you're in 4 low with this thing. It's just one of those things I kind of like to keep everything working if I can on that. So hopefully we'll be able to retain our dummy light. And then that is your vent hose connection, which just plugs right in. So it's supposed to be a direct swap, other than what we just talked about. The mounting over here is the same. It's supposed to be clocked about the same. Front drive shaft hopefully is going to be reusable, and then we will have to order a new rear shaft, which I have already talked to Sean over at Tom Woods. He's going to get me hooked up with a custom drive shaft once we get it in and get our length measured. So I believe that's all about the case to kind of kick this off. Next up, obviously, we're going to have to get the 231 out. Starting with pulling the skid, pulling the drive shafts, all that stuff that you guys have already seen. So I'm kind of going to skip this in order to keep the video hopefully not an hour long on this swap. I want the most of the video to be about actually putting the 241 in and more of the transfer case specific items. So I'm going to get the skid off, get the drive shafts pulled, get this 231 ready to come out, and we will pick up with filming right when I get ready to pull the case out. Just a little update here. We've got the drive shafts out front. rear, everything came out pretty smooth. The rear was brand new, so we are looking at the 231. Things that have to come off still. The transmission mount bracket needs to come off. We got the Novak cable out. The old one is actually right there. These are the old brackets from that. These will have to come off. There are 6 9/16 nuts holding the transfer case to the transmission. Obviously those will be last to come out. We're about to drain the fluid out of here. Sorry if there's a shadow. About to drain the fluid out, pull the fill plug, drain plug, get it all dry so it's nice and light to come out of here. I got the speedo sensor. That's just a clip plug here. This is just held on with a Christmas tree, just holding some of the wiring to the top of the case. That should run over to the four-wheel drive indicator dummy light. But yeah, getting the drive shafts off was a big step. Get some of this other wiring pulled out, get it drained. We should be able to start backing off on the 6 threaded studs that hold the transfer case to the transmission and get this 231 out of here. Just wanted to show you, right here is the vent hose coming out of the top of the 231. You are going to reuse this hose. It's got a little clamp on it, so make sure not to lose any of that or try not to damage it. And here's your four-wheel drive light on the dash. Just unclips just from right there on top of the case. That's all the wiring. We already unplugged the speedo sensor. It's just got a red tab that pulls out, and then you pinch and pull. Came out pretty easy. So I think everything is disconnected from the case. Got the transmission mount off. Prop my exhaust up just because the exhaust clamps into the transmission mount and I didn't want it sitting here hanging. About to drain the fluid out of here and start the really fun part of backing off of these 9/16 nuts up here. Some of the ones up top are really difficult to get to. Alright, I've backed off all of the 9/16 inch nuts on the front side of the case. This thing is actually already free. I'm pretty happy with that. I've seen a lot of videos of people struggling on this, and thank the Lord we have a Southern Jeep. So this thing's ready to come out. There's the joint right there, and as you can see, the only thing holding it up right now is our transmission jack. So I'm about to crank down on the jack, see if we can't roll this thing back and get it out of here. Out comes one 231 transfer case. Here's one 231J out of a 2004 TJ. Went pretty fast getting the thing out of here. I'm pretty happy with it. No major hiccups. Just gotta hope the 241 goes back in as easy as this one came out. So now that we've got the 231 out, we've got the 241 on the bench. A few things I want to go over before we try to slide it under the Jeep that we need to handle first. May have already mentioned, we're going to put our cable shifter on first just for ease of access. It's doable with the case in there, but why not knock out some of these smaller things while the case is still on the bench? This makes life a lot easier. I have already loosened the front yoke. It takes a 1 1/8. That's not the actual correct size. I believe it's metric, but we did not have anything. 1 1/8 will work. So as you can see, we've got the 1330 stock Rubicon yoke ready to come off. Our 1310 from Tom Woods should be in tomorrow. We will replace this little rubber washer right here, slide our 1310 back on, and hopefully everything goes smoothly with that to where we can retain our stock front drive shaft, or not really stock, it's an Adams, but retain the 1310 front drive shaft so we don't have to buy 2 new drive shafts. I have loosened up the four-wheel drive dummy light. It comes out. This little button on the end goes in and out, and if you look inside here, there's a gear that turns when this turns. So when you go from 2 to 4 high to neutral to 4 low, this little gear in here spins with it. It pushes this in and out, and that is what engages your four-wheel drive light on the dash. So that is, we're getting rid of this, and what we have here is going in its place, which is, let's see if I can get you a part number. It's a 1S4219 from Rock Auto. It looks considerably different. It's a lot smaller, but believe it or not, these threads will go in here, and this is supposed to work per the forums. In order to run this and have that light working correctly, though, you have to wire in this new pigtail that plugs into this, because the factory one under the Jeep will not work. So that's what we're about to do tonight. Tomorrow, when our drive shaft yoke comes in, we will get that on and slide the case under the Jeep and get ready to measure for drive shaft so we can get that on the way. So here we are underneath the Jeep. We're looking at the back of the transmission. That's the output shaft coming out of the transmission. Everything looks good in there. I had a clutch and some bearings done in the trans, and I believe they replaced the output shaft seal. So that looks all good. We will get this mating surface cleaned up before we slide the 241 in here. But for tonight, like I said, what we're focusing on is this little guy right here. Excuse me, it's actually this one. That one was for the Speedo. We don't want to cut that. This is for the four-wheel drive actuator light. It just comes out of this loom here. We're going to take this tape off, peel this back, basically cut this one off, splice the new one in, and it shouldn't be too much to it. I don't believe there's a polarity on these, so as long as you connect one wire to one and the other to the other, it should work. I did pull the terminals off the battery just because I don't like slicing through anything live with the battery hooked up. I know it probably wouldn't matter because there's not power going to this right now, but just as an extra safety precaution. So we're gonna get this cut off, and then I will show you guys the new one spliced in. And just like that, we've got our pigtail spliced in. Got it pretty clean looking back to factory. This is obviously the new one. It looks the same as the one that comes out of here, so don't get confused. You do need this one because this switch will not plug into the old one. So this should slide on in here and clip in. It's hard to do one-handed. But yeah, this four-wheel drive switch should go right on there, and we will have a light if all goes as planned. All right, we are assembling the front yoke. The 1310 came in from Tom Woods today. Looks like everything's gonna work fine with that. This washer, this little rubber washer here that is actually the shape of the splines, was on here. This one looks pretty worn, so we ordered another one. It's just from Crown. It's a $1 rubber washer. Went ahead and put some thread sealant on here as well, just for a tight bond. And I've slathered a layer of gray RTV on the nut for the yoke. So we've got our new washer slid on there. grab our Tom Woods Fresh 1310 yoke. There we go. I don't know if you can see in there that washer is up in here. It forms a really tight bond, so that plus the RTV on this will hopefully keep us with a good seal up here. So this nut right here gets torqued to about 100 foot-pounds. They say 90 to 130. We'll probably go to the upper end of that, maybe 110, 120, something like that. So we'll get this torqued on here, and then we'll about be ready to slide this thing under the Jeep. I think we're ready to get the case on the transmission jack, get it rolled under the Jeep. We've got the new four-wheel drive sensor hookup. It's all in there. Swap the O-ring over. Hopefully this thing works. I've seen both positive and negative reviews on this, so we'll see. And if it doesn't work, we'll swap it out and try something else. I'm not sure how good you guys are going to be able to see this. We got the 241 in. Everything made it up like it was supposed to. The spline's engaged. It looks like it's clocked correctly. All 6 pins lined up. Just wanted to show you a little trick real quick. This is the part, I don't know if you can see, there's a bolt up there at the very top on either side. And it's way up there. It's very hard to get to, especially with a ratchet. End up having to use a box wrench, 9/16. There's 6 of them, and again, there's 2 up at the very top on both the driver and passenger side that are very tough. But if you get your drivetrain on the jack, pull the jack stand or whatever it's been resting on while you're doing the project, drop the entire drivetrain about 3 inches. Just let the whole thing sag. It gives you just enough clearance to get up in there with a wrench. Otherwise, I don't know how you would do it. You'd have to get some sort of stubby or something, which we don't have. So I'm sure there's a torque spec for these. I will look it up and torque the bottom 4 to that, and kind of feel what that torque feels like, and then just do the best I can with the box wrench on the top 2, because there's no way you're getting a torque wrench way up there. So that's what we're working on. Next, we will get the four-wheel drive light and the speedo hooked up, and yeah, pretty happy it's in. Probably gonna go ahead and jack it back up in the appropriate angle and do a rear measurement from the flange to the yoke of the Fusion, and get a driveline measurement so I can get Tom Woods on the phone in the morning and get a drive shaft on the way. So that's what we're looking at. I'm gonna finish up torquing these 6 down and catch up. 241 in place. We've still got the drive line a little low, but I don't think we're gonna have many clearance issues. Did want to show you this real quick. This is what a lot of people on the forums and everything are having issues with. It's a later model TJ thing that actually helps you in this swap. If you've got an earlier model, I believe 97 to 2000 with the AX15 and certain automatic transmissions. I'm not as familiar with the automatics, mainly talking about the manuals here. If you've got the AX15, I'm putting the transmission bracket back on right now. Your transmission bracket will likely contact right here on the new 241 case. And that's simply just a change in design. When they went to the Rubicon in 2003, they redid the skid plate design. So even if you have the NV3550 trans, but your Jeep is a 2000 to a 2002, you may still have this issue. They just changed the design, dropped this down a little bit. The 03 to 06 Jeeps, the skid hangs a little lower, which actually works in our favor now, because we basically have a Rubicon setup without being a Rubicon, if you know what I mean. Our skid plate and trans mount and everything was set up for a Rubicon. There wasn't 2 different designs. All the TJs had this mount from 03 to 06. So it looks like it's gonna work, although it's very close. This should be about what a Rubicon would look like. But I just want to throw that out there. Everybody has questions and issues with it on the forums. Likely if you're having clearance problems, you've got the earlier model TJ with the AX15 trans and the belly pan design that is the earlier design that is a little high clearance compared to this one. So the next thing we're going to be doing is this case came empty with no fluid. It was drained before it was taken out of the donor Jeep. So we've got to put 2.1 quarts of ATF plus 4 in it. This drain bolt, the old one, was not in the best shape. Looks like somebody almost rounded it off getting out. So can't hurt to go ahead and put a new drain and fill plug in while we fill it up with ATF. So that's what that is. That's why it looks so shiny. Got some nice thread tape on there. Brand new drain plug, brand new fill plug. So let's get our ATF and get it filled up so we can start shifting through the gears once we get the cable shifter installed. So we're using Castrol Transmax ATF plus 4. This is just what I've always used. Valvoline makes a good ATF plus 4. This says Chrysler on it, and I'm kind of OCD. I like that it says Chrysler, but any ATF plus 4 should work fine. These cases aren't very picky like the transmissions can be. All I run in my transmission is Redline MTL. But anyway, this is our little transfer pump. We used this in the 231 fluid change video. It's just got a little tube that goes down in the bottle, and then we will pump out the top to fill the case. So let's get it filled up. Like I said, 2.1 quarts is what it's supposed to take. We'll see what it actually takes. After some struggling, we have the new Novak on. Actually, it wasn't that bad. This one just took a little bit of adjustment. The 231 went pretty easy when I put this on. I didn't have to do much adjusting at all. This one I put it on and could barely get into 4 low. So basically this cable is run out as long as it can get. Both of our adjustment points here are all the way out. We've got a little bit more on the ends here, but I didn't want too much thread exposed on these. But it is in, it is smooth. Just gonna tighten these little jam nuts down, and that should be complete. Go inside the Jeep here, show you what we're looking like as far as our shifting. So we're in 2 high, pretty firm, 4 high, neutral, 4 low has a nice good lock to it. 4 low was trying to bounce back down. It didn't really feel like it clicked in before the adjustments. Once we get the skid on, and I can just tell by the shift boot here that the drivetrain is still a little low because it's sitting on the jack stand. Once we get all that raised up, this may get even a little bit better, but you want a nice smooth shift pattern, which we seem to have. So that's that. So next, I am currently reinstalling the front ever so abused looking Adams 1310 drive shaft. Again, with the 1310 yoke we put in the front of the new 241, we can retain this drive shaft, and the length looks like it'll be just about perfect. So definitely can reuse the front, unlike the rear. Little quick side note, spilled some here. Adams sent red Loctite when I first got this drive shaft. So on the CV, aka transfer case end, we are also using some more red Loctite just to be safe. That end is just the classic strap style yoke, so no need there. So we can get this back in, and then once we get the skid plate up, the Jeep will actually be able to move again, which will be nice. Got the barn skid all cleaned up. It had been nasty ever since I spilled all the transfer case fluid from the 231 in here, so gave it a good cleanup. Now is kind of the moment of truth, if you want to call it that. We're going to see just what the clearance looks like. When I lift this skid up, it's going to push all the drivetrain up and hopefully not jam that corner of the case right there into the bottom of the tub. So that's the goal. I don't think we'll have an issue because I've seen this exact setup used before, but we're about to see. Let this be a lesson to everybody. This is what a 241 looks like in a non-Rubicon TJ with a 1-inch belly up barn skid. Mine happens to be bashed in right at the worst place it could be, but sorry for the lighting, it still clears, barely. Just gonna have to remove the skid when I drain and refill the case from now on, but plenty of room up top. Got about a 1/2 inch from that very corner bolt right there to the bottom of the tub. And everything's in. Run these little 1/2 inch nuts up on the transmission mount. Get that buttoned up. Feels good to have it off jack stands. Everything's under its own weight. So again, this is a 241 in a non-Rubicon TJ with a 1-inch belly up. Everything seems to clear. Okay guys, it's drive shaft day. The Tom Woods got here. Awesome service out of Tom Woods as expected. I had dealt with them once before, actually with my old shaft, which is also a Tom Woods. So I knew who to call. Called last Thursday. They made the shaft Friday. It went out via FedEx Friday night and got here Wednesday of the next week. So I had a custom shaft made and delivered to my house within 4 business days, which I believe cannot be beaten. So again, excellent service with Tom Woods. Highly recommend them. Call them. They'll get you anything you need. So this is what we got. As you can see, we got the flange on the end to match up with the stock Rubicon case. Got a double cardan style shaft with the double joint here, all the way through to a 1310 on the other end, just a single that will bolt up to the Fusion. They made it to custom length, obviously. Don't mind that. I love my decals, and they usually put the Tom Woods logo on the shaft, but since these TJ rears are so short, they leave it off, but I cut it to fit just because it looks cool. So that's what that is. Came with new U-bolt straps for the back. My old ones were in good shape. I may keep these as spares. This is something, if you buy a used 241, you are going to need if it does not come with it, and that is the flange mounting bolts. These go through the drive shaft into the flange on the case. I didn't think of these until the last minute. These are actually factory Mopar. I ordered them from the dealer online. There's your part number. Let you screenshot that or whatever if you need it. That's the OE equipment there. Always buy an extra. You only need 4. But I tend to lose little things like this. So should have everything we need. Let's get this bolted in. So here's a look at the final product with the rear drive shaft in. Like I said, it fit perfect. No issues. My angles still look very good. And as far as the pinion angle, that's about what it was before. I'll put a level on it before I take off down the road just to be sure, but it looks spot on just like how it was before. So there you go. The 241 is in, along with the Tom Woods rear drive shaft. Hey guys, just wanted to do a final few thoughts on the 241 swap. Overall, I'd say it went really well. Really no major snags that were unforeseen. It's by no means is for anybody that's a true beginner with hand tools and stuff, but definitely doable. I have gone down the road with it and back. I'm happy to report that the 4-wheel drive light does work. So if you use the part numbers that we talked about earlier in the video, you should be able to retain your little 4-wheel drive on light on the dash. You obviously don't need that. It's going to be pretty dang clear if you're in 4-wheel drive now, especially with the 4-to-1. But it's just the little cool things like that that make this so neat to me. You could buy this Jeep and never know that case was even in there until you hit 4 low and it crawls like a tank. So just a little cool thing. Our 4-wheel drive light does work. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for following along. Like I said, any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching Everyday Off-Road. We'll see you in the next video.